Hi, we're going to recap that rock and roll blues boogie type thing we did today on ukulele, starting with the riff. But before we get playing, have you got your PDF in front of you or the file that I printed out during our class? I'm starting on the top left hand corner where it says A riff, and it should sound something like this. Now if you don't have that low note there like I've got over here, your ukulele might sound something like this. Here we go. Also sounds cool, but you'll notice that my top string on this is higher pitched. Now the other ukulele that I'm going to switch back to has got a thicker, deeper pitch string at the top. It still sounds cool if you don't and you have one like this. But if you want to swap it, just let me know, drop me a WhatsApp and I'll help you out. But back to the other ukulele, and both sound cool. So you don't have to have the thicker string only. I'm just showing you for comparison purposes. Now we're going to go back to the other uke. And as promised, here we go one more time. There you can see the difference of the string. You can see the metal string at the top. Okay, enough of that. Let's get into the reading of it. Let's learn how to play it and break it down, and let's see what we can do with it. Now, I used a pick to demonstrate it with, but you can use fingers as well. So I normally use those two fingers that are waving at you now. So I would normally start like this, for example, and then switch to one finger for. But let's focus more on our picking hand. So I'm just going to turn the camera a bit around, and we're going to focus on what's happening over here. I've numbered my fingers so it's easy to see. And if you're looking at the tab, the opening numbers are a double zero written on top of each other vertically. So that's going to be strings 1 and 2 played at the same time. You can see there those two fingers are plucking both strings. And then back on your PDF you'll notice there's 2 zeros followed by 2 more zeros. So you're going to have this. And then next on your second line from the bottom on your page, which is second string from the top, or more accurately third from the bottom, that's how they count the ukulele strings, is a 2 over here. Now I'm going to use my finger number 2 for my fret number 2 as well, because it just works out quite convenient for this particular little riff. So you're going to pluck string 3, fret 2, followed by open, fret 1. So you're going to have, and pay attention carefully to the counting. So it's not going to be like this. It's going to be, you can hear almost like a swing. Dun, 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 dun. It's called the swing feel. Excuse the special effects. So if I put that together now with a double zero, I've got this. Can you hear the rhythm there? One more time. And you finish off with the last note, which is a 2 on the top string. Remember, with the other ukulele it's a lot higher pitch, but on this ukulele it sounds like this. And on the more traditional ukulele it sounds like this. Both sound cool. So this is going to sound traditional. Also sounds quite cool. Now we need to do that 4 times in a row. And we know it's 4 times in a row because if you go to the bottom of the page where it says structure sequence, you'll notice in blue it says 4 times A, and this riff that you just learned is a riff or a phrase or a lick, depending on your terminology, in the key of A. It's implying the chord A, so it actually should be rather called chord A that it's implying, but it needs to be done 4 times. So you're going to have second time, third time, fourth time. Then you go to the red, which should sound something like this. It's got a very similar sound to it. I'm going to play it with the fingers now. It's amazing the difference of the sound between using your plectrum and the fingers, eh? I want you to decide which one you prefer the sound of, whether you decide that you want to use a plectrum or if you prefer to use fingers. I don't really mind. It's one of those where you can really choose whatever works for you. But your riff is going to start now, the one in red that says D riff, and it's going to start double 5, which means fret 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The numbers are your fret numbers, not your finger numbers, because you don't have 7 fingers. not on one hand. Okay, so you're going to play the double 5 again, fingers 1 and 2 at the bottom. You can see them plucking both strings at the same time. Or more head on, or if I change the angle, and you can see my first finger nice and flat here across both strings. Once you've done that, finger 3 for the 7 on the 3rd string, finger 1 for the 5, middle finger for the 6, and you end on the 7 on the top string. So that particular riff from a different view, more of a top view, slow motion. And it must go twice. And then you go back to the blue riff. The last riff, the green one, is exactly the same as this. You simply move everything you've just learnt 1, 2 frets up, and you do the identical thing. So this is your double 7s. There's your 9, 7, 8, 9 as on your PDF file. So all these numbers I'm busy reading out loud from the PDF file, which I'm using to sort of talk from. And that's your 3 basic riffs, implying the chord A, implying the chord D, and implying the chord E. The important thing now is to make sure we get the sequence of them right, and this we have on the bottom again, as we explained, under structure sequence. So you start with 4 A's, 3rd time, last time, D twice, back to blue twice, fret 7 for the E, fret 5 for the D, back to open for the blue, and then finishing off at fret 7 for the E. Obviously I just stopped to explain what I'm doing because I just didn't want to go ahead of talking while I'm not playing, so that's basically demonstrating what needs to be done. Now the second one, it says ukulele chords, and you'll see there's an A7, D7 and E7. A7 looks like that, real difficult chord, just finger 1, fret 1, string 3 from the bottom, 1, 2, 3. Your rhythm pattern for this, super easy, down, down, up, up, down. Sounds quite cool. And that's basically 1 bar of A7, so you can strum it, or you can play. Sounds quite cool if you combine them together, hey? Then D7. It's quite nice how the chords actually complement the riff. So D7 chord, I can play fingers 1 and 2, or 2 and 3. It's one of those weird chords where we're not too fussy if you use those 2 fingers, or even those 2 fingers, or those 2 fingers. It's one of those chords where if it feels good, do it. And other chords we're obviously not that lucky. My personal favorite, I like 2 and 3, and that's my D7. The B7 is basically this, sorry, E7. I said B by mistake, I was thinking guitar there, sorry. E7 has finger 1 at the top, finger 2 here, and finger 3 underneath. So this is your E7. And again, it's color coded. So A7, blue, so I can play it against. Okay, made a mistake there, but you got the idea. Then D7. And then you got back to the A7. So basically, everything that relates to A or implies A, I've got in blue. Everything that relates to or implies D is in red, and the same for the E, which is in green. And the structure just dictates to us how many of each I must play. I must play 4 A's. 2nd A, 3rd A, 4th A, D, 2 D's, back to A, E7, and D7 once each, back to 1 A7, and end on E7, and you back to the beginning. And this that you've just learnt is basically a 12 bar blues or even rock and roll structure in the key of A, which you can jam along with your guitarist buddies, you can jam with other UKE buddies. It's a really interchangeable, user-friendly sort of fun riff. Gets the fingers working, it's nice to get the bit of picking as well and strumming combined. And it's nice to have 2 different instruments doing different things. So you can maybe take a voice noted that in your cell phone, and while this is playing, you can then maybe jam this over it while the other one is playing, so you can actually accompany yourself as well. If you've got any questions on it, please drop me a WhatsApp. Happy to help. Otherwise, have an awesome day, and I'm glad you're enjoying a bit of rock and roll on the boogie, on the ukulele. Thank you.